All right, everybody, welcome to Hiking My Feelings Virtual Campfire. This is campfire number 15. We've been doing this for a hot minute now. I am really excited to have everybody here today. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk a little bit about what the campfire is here in a minute, but first I wanted to give some more updates about some of the things that are happening locally and around the country. So on screen, you will see a screen that says share your resources. Love and support for Leslie on the top line there. Leslie is a grandmother. She is a local peaceful protester, and she was shot in the face, point blank range, with a beanbag round, and so close that the beanbag didn't have time to unfurl. They consider beanbags to be a less lethal use of force because they shoot out and then they like come at you flat and unfurled. But that's not what happened. So it like lodged in her face. And this is the woman I've been giving updates about since like the third or fourth day of this campfire. So Leslie is still in the ICU. Her attorneys have contacted Governor Newsom. He made a statement last week about reducing. So now cops in California will be unable to do the carotid chokehold, which can disarm somebody or make them unconscious, but also has a high risk of fatality. So that has been outlawed. They're making some adjustments to how police departments are being funded. In fact, San Diego just had a big vote on that yesterday. It's not the results that we wanted, but we're hoping that things will continue to progress. So as you can see here on this list, there's more than just love and support for Leslie. There's also the George Floyd Memorial Fund, Black Lives Matter, the Movement for Black Lives, the National Bailout Fund, San Diego Bail Fund, the Bail Project, NAACP Legal Fund, Fair Fight, and the ACLU. So these are all, and the Minnesota Freedom Fund, that was a little bit below my screen. So these are all organizations that could use your help. In addition to what you may have already contributed to our fundraiser, we are 100% standing with the 100% standing with the Black community here in San Diego and around the country. So if you have resources to share, please do. The only way that we get through this is together and by reallocating our resources and divesting from things that are terrible. So do that, please and thanks. And today, as we mentioned, this is a fundraiser for the Hiking My Feelings Wilderness Wellness Center. This is a, I'm gonna show you a little bit what we got here. So we've got the Wellness Center right here. This is phase 3. So what we're building for phase 1 is the 32-foot by 32-foot deck, a 24-foot geodesic dome, which will serve as the community center. And then as we start raising more money, then we're building more decks and more domes to serve as participant accommodations for all of our backpacking retreats, our wilderness wellness events, our day hikes. Everything that we do at Hiking My Feelings will be housed out of the community hub, and then our guests can stay in these domes. So that is what we're raising money for. And if you aren't familiar, this is a fundraiser for us here at Hiking My Feelings. And we've also set aside 10% of the proceeds that we raise to be for the American Diabetes Association. And we've also set aside 10% of the funds that we raise to go to RAINN, which is the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization. Both of these organizations are near and dear to my heart. The ADA is on a mission to improve the lives of people living with diabetes, whether that's type 1, type 2, or if you're pre-diabetic. They are a great resource to start learning more about this disease. Fun fact that's not so fun, it's actually pretty terrible. 49% of the US adult population is living with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes at this moment. 49% of US adults. Like, that is crazy pants. So the ADA is one of our partners on this, and we're looking forward to sending them a nice check. And the folks over at RAINN operate a sexual assault hotline for survivors, as well as a chat room and a bunch of great resources. So if you are watching this and you're feeling like maybe you need some support around that thing that happened once that you're not quite sure if it was sexual assault, chances are it probably was. So RAINN is a great organization to start getting resources and help from. So thank you so much for everybody that's supported so far. If you're on YouTube and you'd like to give once, you can do that at hikingmyfeelings.org/give. If you'd like to join us in Zoom for the last few of these campfires where you can participate in all the fun things that we're doing, get some great prizes from our sponsors and exclusive downloads from our guests, then you can join us at hikingmyfeelings.org/campfire. So today I'm going to be reading from chapter 14. If you're following along, this starts on page 179. And at the end of chapter 13, I was in my first campground on the second trip across the Trans-Catalina Trail. Rocking the shirt today, feeling a little fancy. So this chapter is called Bison Chips. Again, we're on page 179, and we're getting ready to make our way to Little Harbor. So here we go. I had never cowboy camped before, and I woke up for day 2 on the TCT super refreshed. It was my birthday, and the plan was as follows: stop at the airport to grab something to eat, make our way down to Little Harbor, and celebrate my birthday that night and the whole next day on our day off. As the sun rose and Barry started to make breakfast, I grabbed my camera and started wandering around the campsite. "Cindy, turn around," Barry whispered at me. I didn't know what to expect, and I wasn't sure I heard him right. He motioned for me to turn around. I turned around, and there it was, a bison, no more than 75 feet away, on the opposite side of the trail that leads up to the campground. I had my camera in my hand, so I zoomed in as far as I could and took some pictures. I was so still and so quiet that the shutter on my camera sounded like thunder. I didn't want to spook him, so I slowly lowered my camera and tried to make picture memories in my mind. I watched as he grazed on the grasses and moved towards a patch of vegetation and trees near the restrooms. Once he was out of sight, I turned back to Barry and said, "Happy birthday to me." "Birthday breakfast with a bison at blackjack?" I thought, giggling to myself. We finished our breakfast and packed up camp, heading toward Little Harbor. As we rounded the corner from the bathroom to get back on the trail, we saw the bison again. He was just off the side of the trail, maybe 30 feet from us. We moved off to our left, taking a wide route off the trail to give place between ourselves and the bison. Once the coast was clear, we got back on the trail and started laughing. "Was that the same bison?" I asked Barry. "Yep, don't say I never got you nothing for your birthday." We made our way out of Blackjack Campground and descended into the canyon that separates Blackjack from the airport in the sky. I remember this part of the hike was brutal last time because my toes kept squishing into the front of my boots, making me wince with each step. This time felt like a normal hike, and as we passed the TCT sign on our way into the heavily wooded part, I posed by the sign with both hands, showing 3 fingers for 33 years old. Happy birthday to me. We started climbing out of the canyon before the airport, passing the soapstone. Good Lord, I was so out of shape last time. How did we get as far as we did without dying or getting seriously injured? I thought to myself. As we rolled into the airport, I felt my stomach grumble. Oh no, not again. I was thinking about the literal shitstorm that happened last time I ate here. In case you're joining us for the first time, the last time I went past this airport, I almost pooped my pants on the trail. So that's what that's about. As I looked at the menu, it was a hard pass on the buffalo burger, so I went with the BTLA. It was perfect. Last time I heard wild things about the cookies at the airport in the sky, so I picked up one to have for my birthday dessert after dinner when we got to Little Harbor. We knew Sheep Chute Road was coming up, so we didn't waste any time. As we passed the areas where I had to take an emergency poop the last time we did this part of the trail, I was so thankful that I was feeling good. We were cruising, making really good time, when we came up to the group we had seen the day before. Were they at the airport when we were there? Did they bypass it? Did they start earlier than we did? I didn't remember seeing them at the campground in the morning, and I definitely didn't see them at the airport. We turned towards Sheep Chute Road, and the guide called out to us. "Hey, if you're doing the TCT, the trail has changed." I stopped and turned around, walking back toward him. Barry pulled out the map. They were right. Sheep Chute Road wasn't part of the TCT anymore. I felt a pang of panic. I didn't know what was ahead. I was prepared for Sheep Chute. Was this new section going to be harder? Pass us here, and around the corner you'll see a sign for Big Springs Ridge Trail. Can't miss it. We thanked him and kept hiking. My panic heightened. What was this section like? Why didn't I look at the map after the guy said the trail changed? Shit. I took a deep breath. Everything is okay. I was hot, gasping for air, and feeling a bit panicky. I had packed a cooling towel, and that sounded like exactly what the doctor ordered. I took off my hat, draped the damp towel over my head, and put my hat back on. As the breeze whipped around my neck, it felt like personal air conditioning. Oh, wow. That's much better, I sighed. Total game changer, Barry shouted, his towel in a similar orientation. We found Big Springs Ridge Trail, and I asked Barry to take a picture of me by the sign. As I looked ahead to the trail, I could see where Little Harbor was hiding in the marine layer. The trail itself was gorgeous. It was a gorgeous single track, cut into the side of this mountain with tall grass swaying in the breeze. I saw the grass swaying before I felt the breeze pass through the towel, cooling me down again. Ooh, I could get used to this, I cheered as we started hiking. Everything was gorgeous. Actual single track, not deeply rutted fire roads. A hiker-friendly descent into Little Harbor. Not this super aggressive road that jacked Barry's knees so good last time that he had the trail walking backward. This was hiking luxury. I felt like Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music. We continued through grassy mountainside, over some exposed rock, and crested the final hill before our descent into the campground. I could see Little Harbor, the Whale's Tail, and Shark Harbor. We passed through rock piles and cairns, and I watched the marine layer burn off before my very eyes. We're making incredible time, I thought to myself. The campground started to come into view, and we could see the campsite where we were last time during the rainstorm. I was a good distance behind Barry. I was overcome with gratitude for how much better this hike was feeling, and I was peaceful at my state of moving meditation. I heard Barry shout something, breaking my daze, so I picked up my pace to catch him. As I came up behind him, he started singing Happy Birthday, and I started crying. We wandered around the campground and realized we were on the lower campground, closer to the beach. I was so stoked. This was the best birthday ever. Woke up, took some awesome photos, saw a bison for my birthday breakfast, saw the bison again on our way out of the campground, got a BLTA, didn't shit myself. What else was possible? This was a dream. We found our campsite and assessed the sleeping situation. We didn't bring the tent, but given how close we were to the ocean at this site, we knew we didn't want to wake up all moist from the sea breeze. Barry made a lean-to style tent, stringing up the tarp between trekking poles. Ugh, I love seeing this man in his element, I thought. So sexy. The hike into Little Harbor was a quick one compared to the first day on the trail, so we had plenty of daylight to kill. I set up the solar panel on the picnic table, plugged in the brick, and changed into my bikini. Time to get my pictures. Walking down to the beach, I thought of all the times I had wanted to be at a beach in a bikini, but didn't feel comfortable enough to enjoy it. I had spent so much time covered up after the assault. To buy that one piece and love myself in it was such a shift. Buying this bikini after was a totally different ballgame. My favorite perfect one piece didn't fit anymore. Now it was too long for me, and the crotch of the suit hung below my actual crotch. Who writes this? Oh dear. I went in there knowing exactly what I wanted, something sporty that was both cute and practical for paddleboarding and being active in the water. Looking through the rack, I grabbed a large and medium first. I put the large one on and it was too big. Wow, I have lost weight. I slid into the mediums. My butt, as I knew it, had left the building. Where my juicy cheeks used to live, pancakes now resided. I need to build a new butt, I chuckled to myself. No judging, no hatred, just observations about this new body. I felt like I did the first time when I was in the dressing room. Once again, I didn't recognize this body. Once again, I was curious about how I got here. This time, I knew I had been working hard, managing diabetes via a complete lifestyle change, and the weight had melted off pretty quickly. I looked at myself, noting the parts of my body that were different. My arms were more toned, as was my back, thanks to paddleboarding. My legs were much thinner and starting to develop some definition, and wait, no, it couldn't be. My thighs weren't rubbing together anymore. Do I have a thigh gap? My mind went into overdrive. Where are the free drinks? Do I get more signatures in my yearbook now? Will Steven pay attention to me now? Are there men beating down my door to come ask me on a date? Who are these fellas? Can't they see I'm off the market? Versions of me at 12, 16, 18, 21, and 28 all had questions. Here I was, thin enough by my own standards to feel confident enough to buy a bikini. For the first time in a long time, I didn't talk myself out of it. So younger me was cautious to celebrate. She wanted to make sure the universe delivered on the other promises that we were chasing every time we set out on a weight loss mission. Thin girls get more friends, and thus, more yearbook signatures. Steven appears to like the skinny girls in our class. Thin girls get now, in this season of our lives, we were checking all three boxes. Sometimes we won't be checking all three. Sometimes it will be hard to check any boxes at all. I told her we didn't need to measure in quantity, that quality was more important here. Having a few good friends who really know you and love you is better than trying to be everything to everyone. Some boys won't like you back, and it will hurt, but you'll be okay. You can always love yourself and pay attention to yourself. There's more to life than free drinks. Just trust me on that one. The folks you want to be spending time with will love you first and foremost, and they'll understand that your body is a vehicle for that bright and sparkly soul of yours. Your size will fluctuate, and as long as you're happy and you feel good, ultimately nothing else matters. Younger me had a moment, looking current me up and down. Well done, sis. Way to take care of us. As I got closer to the water, I considered turning around and asking Barry to join me, but I was feeling shy and I didn't want to bother Barry while he set up the tent. So I found myself a spot with the rock formation and ocean in the background, shoved the GoPro into the sand, and turned on the camera to take some pictures of myself. The first one I took was perfect. Great, I thought to myself, now I won't get caught being a total weirdo over here. TCT journal entry, June 3rd, 2018. Blackjack to Little Harbor, 8.48 miles, 2,488 calories burned. Biggest wins, didn't get mauled by a bison. The change in trail was for the better. The new leg is gorgeous and much more hiker friendly. Barry sang happy birthday on our way into the campground. Body feels incredible. Barry starting a fire from nothing with no fire to start fire. Hot husband alert. Lessons learned. Cold towels save lives. Wildlife is neat. More confidence around my story and the weight loss. Some things aren't as hard as they seem. What am I thankful for? A body that continues to amaze me with what it is capable of. Barry's question about if I had to do this by myself, would I? I think I could with more training, but I don't know if I'd want to, because this is something I really enjoy sharing with him. Perhaps that is something worth investigating. How am I feeling right now? Physically, not sore, but tired. Mentally, a mix of complete Zen clarity and also existential dread that just came out of nowhere. Spiritually, I'm grounded AF. What did I see or hear? Saw a buffalo at Blackjack Campground and petting zoo deluxe at our campsite. We saw deer, foxes, squirrels, birds, etc. It was crazy. What stood out? We have come so far. The trail change was so gorgeous and we're more capable of handling ourselves, which comes from letting go of a lot of bullshit. Whether that's the weight we carry daily or losing weight in our packs, metaphorically and literally, it feels good. I'm surprised I don't feel like there is more to leave out here. Maybe I'm realizing that I was whole when I got here and I'll be whole when I leave, and that I don't need this to be some big thing, because by the very nature of it happening, it is a big thing. Any mantras? Generous, grounded, joy, and it's my birthday. After my solo photo shoot and journal time, we made dinner and went on an expedition. Our mission? Acquire bison chips. Poop. Bison poop. We were looking for piles of bison poop. We read that they make a great fuel source for a fire, so we took a lap around the campground and picked up dried piles of bison poop. It sounds gross, but really, it's just digested grass. There isn't much else to it. When we got back to the campsite, there were some dried out palm fronds on the ground beneath our tree near our tent. I started to look around and collect anything that could possibly make for good fuel for the fire. Barry started working on the fire as I got the water boiling for our dessert. Raspberry chocolate crumble. Sounds fancy. It's not really. It's a mix of dehydrated raspberry puree plus a packet of crushed up chocolate cookies to mimic an Oreo crust. We had this on our first trip, and I was stoked to have something sweet for my birthday. This was one of the first desserts I had had since I was diagnosed with diabetes, and I was excited for the occasion. As the water started to come to a boil, Barry started shouting about the fire he started. I looked around and saw the lighter on the table. Wait a minute, how did he do that? He had dug deep beyond the surface ash and found some embers from a fire the night before. I thought it was pure magic. The fire burned pretty hot through the smaller timber, and the logs we found behind the tree at our campsite lit pretty quickly. As the sunset faded and the stars came out, Barry started placing buffalo chips around the embers. As they caught fire, they went straight to smoldering. It smelled like mezcal, ashy, but a bit floral and vegetal. As we sat by the fire, passing a bag of raspberry crumble back and forth between us, Barry turned on his headlamp to grab another palm frond as he panned around the area to our campsite. He saw a bunch of animal eyes. We saw squirrels scamper away, a deer and her baby, a couple Catalina Island foxes, which are a species of fox you can only find on Catalina Island, nowhere else in the world. It was wild. We were only under the tarp, so we made sure we put everything that wasn't a pillow, sleeping bag, or sleeping bag in the bear box. We didn't want any visitors in the tent. The next morning was our day off, and I had big plans. The last time we had a day off here, I was stuck at a picnic table drawing tarot cards about the year ahead and lancing blisters. This time, I wanted to explore. It was overcast and this side of the island was a bit chilly, so we bundled up, took our time making breakfast, and walked over to our campsite from the first trip. They very well could have changed the layout between 2016 and this trip, but once we got up there, I looked at the tree we slept under on the night of the rainstorm and over across the road to where the porta potties were. It didn't seem that far. I mean, I could barely walk on that trip, and every step took the effort of 10 with my cinder block feet, but I couldn't help but giggle to myself. We joked about the bison prints looking like Jurassic Park, my Lady Gaga muddy hiking shoes and rain gear ensemble, and the poor trail conditions. As we walked down to the Whale's Tail rock formation, I knew which photos I wanted. I wanted outdoor goddess standing on a rock looking at the ocean, and this was the place to do it. I looked at what I was wearing. Trail runners, my green socks I got in memory of Adam, black trekking tights, a neon blue long sleeve, a purple vest, and a gray beanie. This was quite the look, especially for the first week of June on an island. I didn't care. I rocked that little photo shoot, mismatched clothes and all. We spent the rest of the day taking pictures at Shark Harbor, watching the waves, exploring more of the rock formations, and sitting on the beach near our campsite. As the sun started to set, I pulled out my notebook and reread my entry for my birthday. Maybe I'm realizing I was whole when I got here, and I'll be whole when I leave. And I don't need this to be some big thing, because by the very nature of it happening, it is a big thing. I stood there, in awe of the clarity I had found. Hiking my feelings indeed, I grinned to myself. I read that part over and over, really trying to wrap my head around what wholeness felt like in this moment. So far, I had some pretty high highs and was moving a lot of old energy through my body. Something was clearly happening here. Was this island magic? Did I die on the way here? And is this heaven? We started another fire and talked about the remaining sections of the trail. We knew the climb out of Little Harbor to get back to the ridgeline was tough, and there were at least 2, if not 3 ridgelines before you start to make your way down into 2 harbors. As for the rest of the trail out to Parsons Landing and back, we didn't know what to expect. The first time we attempted this trail, our trip ended when we got to 2 harbors. We had read the maps and done our research, but ultimately, everything from 2 harbors forward was new territory. We made our way back to the tarp tent, scanning the campsite with our headlamps and saying hi to all the critters that had invited themselves to the sleepover. "Good night, buddies," Barry said as he switched off his headlamp. I started to drift to sleep when I heard a scratching sound. I tapped Barry and asked him if he was awake. He was already searching for his headlamp. He switched it on, and we spotted a fox approaching our makeshift tent. "Get it together, Williams," I thought to myself, recalling one of our playful mantras was gone. "Oh, he already scampered away. We're good. I don't think he'll be coming back." "Don't think? If I wake up snuggling a fox, we're gonna have words, sir," I said, laughing through my fake rage. "Don't say I never got you nothing." So that was chapter 14, Bison Chips. And tonight I have like this all-star lineup of people that are amazing. So up first, I have Mr. Gary Ware. And Gary is the founder of Breakthrough Play. He is my old improv instructor. He is one of my favorite humans. He's basically Yoda. So Gary, welcome. Come on down. I'm Bob Barker. The Price is Right.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, you look good and you sound great.
Thank you. I feel like that's the default intro when someone jumps on one of these. Hey, can you hear me? Hello, hello. Can you hear me now? Thank you for having me, Sydney.
Yes.
Yeah. Where should we start?
Thank you for coming. I'm so excited. So one of the reason that I made this whole chapter about, the reason I made this whole chapter about play is because one of the prompts in the back of the book is, when was the last time you played like a kid? And
Yes.
Gary is the most playful mofo I know. So I'm just here to like experience your greatness. So where do you want to go? I know we got some activities planned, so maybe tell people about yourself and then we'll go from there.
Well, first and foremost, if you are an adult and you heard that chapter and you're thinking like, I don't know if I could do that. I want to first start by giving everyone permission to play. Here's your permission slip. It is right here. Go ahead and take a screenshot of that. But as adults, you know, between everything that we got going on, between work, if we have kids, taking care of our kids or taking care of our loved ones, play seems to be the last thing that we think about, because our relationship to play, and this may just be me talking, is, oh, I can play when I finish my work. Because, you know, growing up, that's probably what we heard a lot is, oh, you can play after the work is done. And so we just get accustomed to doing that. And so for me in my work, I use play as a tool to help people do a whole bunch of things, how to connect better with other people, how to connect better with themselves. And my mission is to help people see play in a different mindset. I call it purposeful play or serious play or whatever the case may be. But play is something that once you learn how to truly embrace the power of it, you will realize that it's just as necessary as breathing. You know, it's something that there's this doctor, his name is Dr. Stuart Brown. He wrote, in my opinion, the book on play. Granted, that's the name of the title of the book. But he says that most adults are suffering from play deprivation. in that, those like symptoms that sort of pent up stress and aggression and stuff like that, it's because we're not making space for play. So that is me. And we got connected, Sydney and I, through improv, because I am also an improv teacher, and that is one form of play and one of my favorite forms of play. But yeah, that's me.
I love that. Sorry, I have a little bit of a delay here. I'm so happy that you're here, and thank you for that wonderful intro. I swear to God, every time I spend time with you, A, I learn something, and B, I end up having like 4 new rabbit holes to go down as far as like things I can go learn about. So thank you for bringing that and that energy here. So tell me a little bit about how you came to found Breakthrough Play and what you do as a function of that business, and then maybe we can like do some fun exercises.
Yeah. So Sydney and I, we have some major parallels. And that's why like I love Sydney so much, and I love everything that she's doing with Hiking My Feelings. Because for me, like I said earlier, I had this mindset of, oh, you can only play when the work is done. And so I found myself overworking myself, burning myself out. And it wasn't until I took an improv class where I started to realize, wow, this was amazing. That was like, it was like recess. For anyone, whether you're watching live, you're in the chat or whatever, like you've done improv, like I'm pretty sure you're like shaking your head like, yep, yep, yep. And if you haven't, I invite you to go take an improv class. But for me, like those 2 hours were like therapy. For 2 hours, we just played. And like after, I would go home feeling so invigorated, like, wow. Like, and my very first improv class, again, I didn't know what to expect. And I was a little nervous, and I came and I like, felt like I needed to be funny. But then like for 2 hours, we just played these games. And that week after that was like the best week ever, because again, I was, I guess, suffering from play deprivation. And I was hooked. And so I thought improv was the answer. And so I wanted to do as much improv as possible. I was bringing these improv games to my team. And as I started to dig deeper into this work, I found out that, yes, improv is very helpful, and it's an amazing catalyst, but the answer is play. And so that was just my secret for the longest time. I was doing, sharing this with my team. And I guess the universe had a bigger plan for me, because I was part of this digital marketing agency, was a co-founder, and I was doing this on the side for free, or, just whatever, a little bit here and there, but it was all in service to my team. And then I got back from a retreat in Nicaragua, where I was leading some people on this really amazing sort of like adventure sort of quest. And that Monday, checking in with my co-founder, he was like, hey, I think we should go our separate ways. And he basically right then and there put a check in front of me, and that was my buyout check. And then I was essentially without a job. And then 2 hours after that, our landlord, my wife and I, we were renting this house, and our landlord called and said, hey, sorry, I have to sell the house that you've been renting. And so now I'm unemployed. We have a month to like find a place to live. And I was at a crossroads, and I was thinking, well, do I just get another job again? And my wife, in this instance, was the rock, and was like, hey, why don't you start to explore, that facilitation stuff that you've been doing with Breakthrough Play. It was, again, up until that point, it was more like a hobby. And I was like, okay, let's see what happens. So I made a few phone calls. Fortunate for me, like, my network like fully supported me, and I started doing some trainings, and then I started adapting over time and bringing even more into it. So that's been about 2 years. I've been teaching improv for the last 5 years. I've been doing this facilitation in some form, the last 7 years, but like me full time doing this, it's been 2 years.
Poof. What a boss. I feel like it's been like way longer than that. How is this possible? I don't
I know.
understand.
Yeah, I don't know. Granted, 2020's felt like 3 years,
I
so
think
I
maybe
could
that's
see.
why. Yeah, I'm like, oh, Gary's been doing this for a decade. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh man. So what originally got you into improv?
I wanted to be a better public speaker, and
Okay.
I hated Toastmasters.
Yeah, that's not my jam either.
It's not like, to be honest, I did Toastmasters, and I appreciate the foundations of public speaking that I got from it. But I felt like it was interesting because improv and Toastmasters were the complete opposite for me. Where Toastmasters, I felt like I was being forced to be someone else, where they were saying, all right, this is how you present. You need to present exactly
Right.
like this. Here's the container. And if you're not, then we're going to judge you for that. And so every time I went, I was so nervous. I was getting so much anxiety. And it was just not for me. And
Yeah.
then a mentor of mine said, hey, why don't you take an improv class? And I was like, improv class? What am I going to do with that? He's like, trust me, just take the class. I was like, all right, cool. And it's interesting because sometimes people come into your life for this brief moment and they're like a conduit. To be, yeah, Dima, he was my mentor. He was the CEO of the agency that I worked for, or well, the founder. And then he ended up like leaving. But he was the one who sort of pushed me on that journey. And then he like left. He left my life. He like gone. Like we still keep up, but it was almost like he was there for that brief moment to like push me on this improv journey. Like, hey, this is where you need to go. And then he was gone. And I took the improv class, and I was like, holy smack. And again, I had no idea. Like I wasn't in theater as a child. This just wasn't something that I did. I played music, but never done this. And then once I took that improv class, I was hooked. I was like, more improv, please, more improv, please. Where can I get more improv? And at the time, I know, right? Like it was like literally like, I was improv in my feelings. Like you were hiking
Yeah.
your feelings. I was improv in my feelings. And at the time, there was only one place in San Diego where you can take improv classes. And it was at National Comedy Theater. And they taught short form. Short form is like their main curriculum at the time. And because there was only one place to do improv and everyone was clamoring to do more, that's where Find a City came from, and Side Stage, which became O-Town Improv Company. Like all those things sort of spawned because that one place was the only place. And so, and yeah, there's improv in LA and Chicago and all these other things. And yes, I did go drive 2 hours at a time for a few weeks, just doing improv classes. I've been to improv camp. I've been all over the place. But at the time, it was just one place in my hometown that I can do improv, and I was hooked.
I love that. What is the best gift that improv has given you?
The best gift that improv has given me is that it gave me permission to be myself.
Same. And by same, I mean like, and by improv gave me permission, I mean like Gary Ware gave me permission.
I'll pay it
Like,
forward.
the world doesn't even know. Like I don't think like can you, because like everybody that's watching this knows Sydney post improv, but can you describe Sydney that walked into class that first day and like introduce them to me? Because like I don't think people understand, like I've always been like this inside my body, but like hidden and under lots of layers and like lots of sad things. So like what was Sydney on improv day one like? I gotta know.
And again, I felt like that was like such a lifetime ago. But Sydney at level one, and I'm so blessed that I got to see you in two different areas on your improv journey. But Sydney in level one was very uptight. She wanted to get improv right. I don't know. This may or may not be true, or this just might be my hallucination. I think you had a notepad. I think you were taking notes on everything. Were you taking notes on everything? Yeah, she was like, all right, I got to get this improv right. I got it. And then like, she was like, she was just very determined to do it right. And the interesting, ironic thing is, one of the rules of improvisation is, everything you do is right. So you were doing it right, but like you were even judging yourself. Was that right? Was that really right? Can I do it again? And I know at that point, like you were doing so much. And I don't know if it was during level one or after level one is when you left your corporate job, to start, to
it was
go
during.
yeah, it was during. Yeah.
I
to
was
the
in
startup.
improv for like 2 weeks and I was like, I gotta go. Like, I can't do this corporate stuff anymore. I'm out of here.
And it is so funny because I've taught so many classes and so many people, and I always, every time people come up to me, you know what, Gary, improv is giving me the courage to quit my job. I was like, no, please don't, please don't. Or if you do, can you sign this waiver that say that you would not come after me if it doesn't work out?
Oh, God, I love it. Thank you for that lovely reflection. Yeah, I was the perfectionist at improv. But seriously, like that class, like, yes, and the fact that everything that comes out of my mouth was right, like that was the biggest dose of permission I didn't know I needed. Because like in the house I grew up in, like if you did something wrong, then you needed to explain why you did it, or else you get
Mhm.
grounded, or you don't learn the lesson, or like it's like, and it's a parenting technique. I don't have kids, so the the next half of this conversation is going to be great because we're talking about adventuring with children, of which I have none. But like I missed the memo on you don't have to do that as an adult because like every action that I take, I needed to articulate and explain away. So thank you for freeing me from those chains because that was wild.
You're not alone. That is a conditioning thing. And it's unfortunate because I grew up in a similar sort of environment. My dad was in the Navy, pretty strict guy. And it was like it was right or it wasn't. And if it wasn't, you would get in trouble. So I grew up in the uh-oh. Because again, as these human, these people in these human meat suits or whatever, like we want to either go towards things that are pleasurable or away from pain. And if you grew up in an environment where if you did something wrong, you would get punished either like physically or mentally or whatever, you don't want to do that. So like you're just like, all right, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? Is this right? And again, in school, like again, that's for another discussion and school reform. But
Needs to
public
happen. Yeah.
school is all about, if you look at it, standardized testing. They want everyone to like be a certain way. So it's basically you were right or you weren't. And so if you didn't fit in that mold, and I was one of those kids who didn't, it was a challenge for you. However, you still wanted to get it right. So I'm with you. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are probably not in their heads like, yeah, that's why in improv, when we say the principle of embrace mistakes, people like I don't want to. So
Yeah. Well, it's a big one. And like one of the questions that I was like thinking about earlier was just like what gave what was Gary like before improv? Like were you this much like Yoda prior to improv, or is that another gift that improv gave you? Cuz like your wisdom, like I've never met anybody that drops as many knowledge bombs as you do in like any given setting. So like what was Gary like before he started doing improv and playing so much?
that's why I said improv allowed me to be myself,
Yeah.
because growing up prior to fourth grade, I went to a different school every year. uh,
Oh wow.
we moved, or my parents wanted me, like they didn't approve of the school that was in our neighborhood, so they had me bus to another school. And so as a child going to another school, like you want to fit in, you want to belong. So I felt like up into improv, I was all like, all right, how do I need to be to fit in, to socialize? And again, we're in this, moment where we're talking about like, you know, sort of systemic racism and stuff like that. As a black person, a black kid growing up in an almost all white environment, that I didn't think much about it growing up, because again, you're just like, all right, how do I need to be? And so like I like found out like, all right, cool, I guess this is how I need to act in order to be accepted. And it kind of sucked, and it traveled with me. And again, I didn't know anything. I didn't know that I was doing anything wrong, or I was like, I knew there felt something didn't feel right, but it wasn't
Right.
until improv until I realized like, no, I don't have to be a certain way. Like I can just be myself. I can be my loud self. But I feel like in improv, like we have this game, unfortunately, fortunately. So it was unfortunate that I had to experience that growing up. Fortunately, one of my superpowers is that I know how to navigate certain situations, and if I have to turn on the charm, I can. But it was improv that allowed me to realize that, oh, you can learn in a different way, and that's all good. And so that was like, cool, let's do it. So
Yeah, I love
yeah,
it. Well, you,
pre-improv, I was like, all right, how do I need to act? Hi, hello, hi. I want to be a professional. This is how professionals act. Okay, here we go. Hello. Whatever.
well, you kind of like hijacked my next question, which is what is your superpower? But you have multiple, so tell us about some other ones that you have, because that's one of my favorite questions to ask folks.
All right, what is my superpower other than connecting other people? I love doing that. I love smiling. I have all kinds of superpower. I feel like I can distill things in a way that makes sense for people. I consume all kinds of stuff. I love learning, and it's interesting because Gary of 20 something years ago would have said, fuck learning. Excuse my French, but like what, like, no. But when I realized that, oh, it wasn't that I couldn't learn, it's just that the way that the information was presented to me was not in a way that was optimal for how my brain processed this. Once I learned that, and then I got interested in stuff. So one of my superpowers is ADHD. And as someone that has ADHD, one of our superpowers is that we can hyper focus on stuff. And so if I'm interested in something, I'm like, dope, I'm go all in. And then the cool thing is then I like go and share it with people, and they're like, Gary, how did you become like Wikipedia? Like, we were talking about this, and then that reminds you of something, and now you're sharing this. So
I love that. Barry also said that I say I love that to everything. So I'm trying to come up with a new tagline and a new response to questions.
well, I appreciate that you love that.
Thank you. I love it. So talk to me about the exercises that we were discussing doing today. And
Yes.
do we want to do one and then we can chat some more and then do another?
Yeah. Can other people come in and play with us?
Absolutely. Everybody come on up. Turn your cameras on. Gary's going to walk us through something. It's not scary.
It's not scary.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
No.
I'll start calling on names if people don't put on their cameras. So
I automatically started rhyming Scary Gary because, having a 6-year-old, you rhyme everything.
Heck yeah. No, I've had that before. It's all good. Cool. All right. So this first game that we're going to play is called Something Interesting. And so we're just going to go one at a time and tell us something interesting about yourself that is true. And because of the world of improvisation, anything that you say is true. So I would like to invite all of you not to like think of like trying to be perfect. Whatever is interesting or whatever's true for you goes. And how we determine who goes next is I'll go first, and I have an imaginary ball in my hand, and I'll say, my name is Gary, and something interesting about me, or something true. Those are your two options, something interesting or true, and they could both be interesting and true. Then you say it, and then you throw the ball at someone, and you say their name, and that person will catch the imaginary ball, and then it will be their turn. And so for those of you who have the cameras on who are participating, I bet you some of you are thinking what you're going to say right now. Totally get it. It's all good. That's a natural response. I invite you, when you get the ball, if you don't want to say that, you can say something else. So I will go first. Hi, I'm Gary. And something interesting or true about me right now is that I haven't worn jeans or shoes for the last like 3 weeks. And I'm going to throw to Vicky.
Hi, I'm Vicky. And something true about me is that I bought a pencil sharpener today. Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura, and I'm a weird person that was happy that it snowed in Colorado today in the beginning of June. We needed the water. Jess, here it comes.
Hi. Something interesting about me is that I walked up to two teenagers in the middle of their conversation on the beach today and asked them to share my poem on social media. Mary.
So something interesting about me that I just realized is that I've met Gary before. And I'm so excited that I figured that out because it was driving me crazy. So that's my interesting thing about me today. And I am tossing it to Marionette.
Something interesting about me, or maybe really sad and true, is that I nearly faint at the sight of blood. And if one of my kids has some gash or something, they have to go clean it before I help them. I am going to throw the ball to Shanti.
Something interesting about me is I moved to rural Utah 2 years ago, which is the most conservative place I've ever lived in my whole entire life. I was born in British Columbia because my parents were illegal immigrants in Canada during the Vietnam War.
Wow.
And so it's been a very interesting experience living in the most conservative Whitopia in America at this time. And there's a reason I'm here, because I'm gonna fuck some shit up. Oh, sorry, can I swear?
You can.
And I'm doing it every day. With a smile on my face and very politely.
Ooh, I think that's everyone. So yay. Right? Clap. Yay.
What about Sydney?
Oh, Sydney. Yeah, throw it to
Drawing
Sydney.
to
Shanti.
Sydney.
Hi, I'm Sydney. Welcome. Something true about me is that I did not wash my hair today. Here you go, Gary.
Thank you. All right, cool. Yay. Round of applause. Hooray. Yeah, that was our first game. That is just a really fun game that does a few things. One, it gets us to sort of support each other by throwing an imaginary ball. We don't use our imaginations enough. And two, it allows us to be as vulnerable as we want to be. And by doing that, especially in this virtual environment, how sometimes it's challenging to like really get that feeling of connection, by giving people permission to share whatever they want, it just allows us to learn a little bit more about each other than the typical stuff that we typically do. And it creates what I like to call the DOSE, D-O-S-E, which is an acronym for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And those are the neurochemicals in our brain that are responsible for us feeling like we belong, like we have purpose, creativity, and all those good things. So
I love that. And yeah, I do. That's how much I do. I love it. Now I'm hyper aware that I say that all the time. So today's mantra for this chapter is, I am committed to building a life I don't want to escape from. What does that mean to you, Gary?
I'm committed to building a life that I don't want to escape from. It's when I talk about play, I say the reason why so many people have a problem with play is that they use it in the wrong way. And there's a book called Super Better by researcher Jane McGonigal, and she talks about that there's just as much data out there on how play is detrimental to your life. It'll make you antisocial and all these things, as it is that it will help you be resilient, as it will help you connect, as it will help you overcome things. And the one thing that is the difference between using it and bad things happening and using it and good things happening is your intention. And if your intention is, I'm going to play as a way to escape from something because I don't want to deal with it, then you are not going to reap the benefits. You are going to continue to create this pattern. Then when something challenging happens, you're using play as an escape mechanism to dealing, instead of dealing with what's important. However, if your mindset is, you know what, I need to power up. I need to help myself, get in the right mindset so I can deal with this. And as a result, I'm going to play. Well, then you're going to reap the benefits. So, Gary, prior to improv, was something where I thought I was doing all the right things. Like, I had a good job, check, married, check, like all these things, but I just didn't feel like, I felt like something was wrong. And this was prior to me learning about play. I use vacations and stuff as an escape from real life. I would go like, all right, cool, we need to go on vacation, like party hard, do all these things. And then I felt like I recharged, but I come back and then it seems like as soon as I jump back into it, it's like, oh, that kind of sucks. And so for me, being true to like, what are my intentions? Like what is my big why? What is my big purpose? And how can I incorporate play as a way to just continue to stimulate me? So that's how I'm answering it. I don't even know if I answered it, to be honest.
I
just
think
went
it's
on
great.
this crazy rant.
Nailed it. Yeah. Well, because one of the things I was going to ask about that when we went, because we hiked together back in February, and we were talking about the 5 whys and how that can help us kind of connect the dots on things that are going on in our life and in our brains and in our bodies. Is that something you could explain for the group? And then maybe we could facilitate and or demonstrate a little bit of that.
Yeah. So as a way to like really get to the root of something, and now I understand like why kids ask why all the time. It's painful. Like I have a 3-year-old son, and like he's like, why dada? Why dada? I'm like, seriously? Because at the point I'm like, because. However, if you come from a place of curiosity and really want to understand, like, why do you want to do something? You ask. Forgive me for not knowing the researcher, that came up with it. But you can ask why 5 times to really get to the root. And because the first time is like sort of superficial. It was funny that you bring this up, Sydney, because I was talking with a really good friend of mine, and I asked her, like, I went through this, and just to get to the root of what her challenge was. And her thing was she felt like she needed to go to a co-working space, to do some work. And I said, why do you think so? And then the reason, like after asking why over and over again, why for this, got to the root is that by getting out of her house and going to a different environment, it triggers something in her brain that tells her this is time to work. And by being at home, that doesn't do it for her. Now, when she got to the reason why she felt like she needed a co-working space, then through some coaching, we were able to say, well, is that true that your house can't do that? Because she just thought she had to leave, but because she got to the root of why she felt like she needed to leave, then we can have an honest conversation. And she said, you know what? I probably don't need to go to a co-working space. It would be nice, but what if I set up something in my office that felt like a different environment? And I started to create that feeling that would trigger me like I need to work. So this is just something that help you get to the root of it. And so, yeah, like we can definitely have a conversation about it.
So, and one more time for Marionette, can you say dose again, DOSE?
Yeah, dose, dopamine. Dopamine is that chemical that helps you focus. It helps you get creativity. Oxytocin, serotonin, those are the trust hormones, that will help you feel like belonging, sense of belonging, sense of connection. And endorphins happens when you laugh. It helps you with creativity as well. So I like to say dose, DOSE, just because it's a really good acronym to remember.
Dig it. So Jess, I'm calling you to the campfire here. What's something that you've been thinking about or trying to figure out or connect the dots on? And let's let Gary dig on it with you.
Let's dig.
All right. I am working on having more income come in from my creative aspirations.
Okay. What's the challenge that you're facing?
Time. I feel like I'm working 3 jobs right now because I have a full-time job, and to support, because it's, to support what I'm doing with my artistic endeavors. And another struggle is that I'm having more fun with my artistic endeavors, and I'd much rather be doing this for a living than a 9-to-5.
Got it. And so is your challenge that you need more time for the creative endeavors and your work is taking up most of that time? Is that the real challenge?
It's so hard to say that because I'm grateful to have a job, especially during COVID and,
Yeah.
we're unemployed, but I'm really finding gratification in what I'm doing. And it would be nice to be able to use the skill sets I'm learning, if not to create art, but maybe to be creative. I like creating websites. I like creating ads. I like creating, there's a lot of, it doesn't really have to be a painting or a poem. That is kind of my forte, is poetry or blogging or photography. But I just want to be creative and make money from it.
Got it. Let me ask, I'm curious on this. Why don't you think you can apply some of that creativity to your 9 to 5?
Because the 9 to 5 has their own thing going on.
Got it. Why does the 9 to 5 have their own thing going on?
There's such a hierarchy and a structure. It's so big and organized that there's very little room for individuality.
Do you know why?
Courage.
Why there's so little room for individuality?
Because in the philosophies that I have heard espoused, consistency and is more important than individuality.
Do you know why individual consistency is more important than individuality?
Branding is the first thing that comes to mind. Branding is important, so consistency is good for branding. It gives a stronger appearance of we have our shit together.
Got it. And do you know why is important to have the appearance that you have your shit together? And know some of this you're making speculations because this is like sort of third person, so I'm just curious.
It's okay. Yeah, my thought process here is that if you have your shit together, or you appear at least to have your shit together, you will garner more reputation in the given community you are seeking to gain clients from, or clients. You're seeking to gain clients.
Yeah.
More money.
Got it. What is your 9 to 5, by the way?
I'm a project manager currently for a tech company.
Got it. Okay. So let me ask you a question. Why haven't you asked them to be more creative?
They actually gave me a creative job for a little bit, and I was very happy, and then it went away. And I was told that I had to go do this stuff again.
Do you know why it went away?
Because the creative job I was doing had value, but there was more of an immediate need for me to be doing the project management portion of my skill set over the creative portion of my skill set. I don't know why.
It's all good. I have a question. Why haven't you asked if you can do a little bit more of that?
They keep me pretty busy doing the role. And sometimes they do give me creative side jobs, but there isn't a lessening of the responsibilities. So I
know that feeling.
I end up busier. I end up being creative, but not really enjoying it because I'm stressed out about the numbers over here.
Okay. And so
this is going to be hilarious.
Why, so is this helpful? Like just going through this process?
It's amazing. I'm going to start doing this.
Yeah. And so again, it's not necessarily going to give you all the answers, but at least it gives you some clarity. Some of the things that I've heard is, that you want to be creative in your current job. You don't feel like you can because of the stipulations that they put in branding and all this other stuff. And it seems like every time they give you something, they don't take anything away. So it doesn't help anything anyway. So I'm curious. And so this is just all about curiosity. I'm curious, is there a way for you to start to pull back on responsibilities of the current job to give you some headway for your your
I'm
other stuff.
working on that as we speak. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail.
Yeah, it's all good. No worries. But was this helpful? Just going through, this was just an example. We're just going through the process.
Yeah, no,
Asking why.
this is more than hypothetical for me. So for sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for playing along. I know we sort of just called you out and put you on the spot. So, you know, sort of, yeah.
I don't mind. I could have chosen anything. I could have chosen a safer topic. You know, I want to lose 10 pounds by bikini season next year. So.
Yeah. But this is just something for everyone. Like I do this personally anytime I feel stuck. And I'm like, oh, why is this? Why is this? Why is this? Why is this? And I just sort of go down. I'm like, oh, all right.
You know what? It's really interesting you say that, because when I was a teenager, I why'd the heck out of people. And it was actually like frowned upon by even some of my closest friends. They were like, they made fun of me for it and why'd me back and just made it not fun. So this was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we get conditioned out of asking questions, and that makes us, so the fun stat for everyone is that kindergartners, age 5, NASA did the study on creativity, and kindergartners had genius levels of creativity. They follow that same cohort all the way through age 18. So at kindergarten, 90% of them had genius levels of creativity. By the age 18, only 3% had genius levels of creativity. And that percentage started to decline around age 12. And that's around puberty and stuff like that, where for the first time you're seeing your peers have different innate abilities, and it makes you sort of second guess your own abilities. And maybe you're sort of questioned on why are you asking so many questions? And then you just say, well, I guess I need to conform, and I'm going to ask less questions. And then by the time you're 18, you don't think you're creative, and all creativity is just the ability to solve problems. We're all innate, we're all creative. And the cool thing is creativity is just a muscle. So if you allow yourself to work on it, you can get better at it. But yeah. And then people, they don't feel like they can, and they need to ask for permission. So you have permission, you can be creative.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Again.
I love, so my question is, what kind of story are we going to create together here, Gary?
Yes. And so that is our final game. We are going to co-create a story. And the way that this goes, I don't know what kind of story. We're going to figure it out. So I need someone to say a noun. What's a noun? Any sort of noun? Anybody?
Trail.
Trail. Awesome. Trail is the noun. And an adjective.
Crunchy.
Crunchy? What else did someone say something else?
I said rocky.
The Rocky Crunchy Trail. That's the name of this story. And how it works is we are going to tell a story one phrase at a time. So I will start. I will start off the story with the first phrase, and then I will just call someone else. And that person will say another phrase to continue the story. And then they will call the next person, and we will keep going. And a few tips. A story has a beginning, middle, and an end. So let's see. This, again, anything goes. Just invite you to be present and listen to what's happening, and don't try to pre-plan, because if you do, you're just going to fuck it up for everyone. But if you do, we'll support the hell out of you. So it doesn't matter. And we'll see where this story goes. And yeah, this may crash and burn, and that's all good. And we will support the hell out of it. All right. So this is the story of the Crunchy Trail? What was the other word?
Rocky Crunchy Trail.
Rocky Crunchy Trail. All right, cool. Once upon a time, there was a group of strangers that got together to go hiking. Shanti.
I don't know. But they didn't know where they wanted to go. So they opened up a map. And
cool. Someone's name?
Like Laura.
And the map led them up to the highest trails that they could possibly go to that were the rockiest, crunchiest trails along the Continental Divide in Colorado. Mary.
Although it was June, it started to snow. The rocky, crunchy trail started to become very slippery. Vicky.
Ooh, said Marcella, who was leading the hike. This slippery snow is not as fun as the crunchy snow. And she led the group on a big leap where the snow became Marionette.
Deeper than hell. So deep. So deep. We complained. Marcella, where the hell are you taking us? Jess.
But then the leader of the group, you, decided to just go with it and said, you know what? I'm taking you straight to hell. And we kept following you because you're the leader and we believe in you and we have confidence in you. And so we just started digging in the deep as hell snow. And we dug deeper and deeper through the red dirt and deeper until we were exhausted. Gary.
We were so exhausted. Sweat was pouring down our face. Our hands were just tired. But then Steve, who hadn't said anything up until this point, noticed something from the earth. Sydney.
Oh my God. And we, in this moment, we're all like, Steve, honestly, what's the problem? He found the biggest pile of bear poop any of us have ever seen. Laura.
So we gathered up the bear poop and we tried to have it kind of like you would use bison poop for, but bear poop doesn't burn like bison poop does. So instead of having a warm fire that would melt the snow and take us out of hell, we kept digging and found gold. Vicky.
Gold. Shiny, sparkly gold. Shiny, sparkly, crunchy gold. Mary.
Gold for sale. I don't know why that's
Perfect. Yeah.
gold for sale. Shanti.
Gold for sale. But what was it really worth? Was it worth anything? Because suddenly they realized it was fool's gold. It wasn't real at all. And so they were just left with no fire and no gold and a lot of sad faces. Marionette.
And we joined hands and we climbed up out of the hellhole with the gold, what little bit of fool's gold we had, because we were mere fools. And we trekked back down the trail to the trailhead where we said goodbye. The end.
Yes.
Ended it.
Yay.
We did it. Cool.
And we had a bison poop callback. What up,
Right?
Laura?
Well done. Well done.
It was
Cool.
the Indian in me that brought that part back.
Love it. And that was one phrase at a time story. Yeah, there we have it.
Bison poop. So, Mr. Gary, where can people find you, and what are you currently working on that you're super jazzed about?
Well, people can find me on the interwebs. My website, breakthroughplay.com. I'm at Gary Ware on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever. So you can follow me there. What am I working on that I'm really jazzed on? It's unfortunate that this, what happened with COVID made us stay home. And up until this point, I had been doing in-person facilitations. I would go into a company or work with a group or individual and use like improv and play as a facilitation tool. And I can't go within 6 feet of people. And so it's been so cool to see how I can recreate that in the best way possible. Or I wouldn't say recreate, because there's nothing like in-person sort of connection and stuff like that, but reimagine what that's like. And I've been doing some really cool companies can commission me to like bring stuff in a virtual environment. I did something with a really cool friend where our thing was, how can we use play to help people deal with fear? And we did a really cool thing called Playing with Fear, and it was part like sort of graphic facilitation, like we were sketching and drawing, and then we did some improv stuff, and it was really powerful. And Sydney, that's where those meditations that I sent you came from.
Yeah,
as a
and
result of
everybody
that.
gets those tonight. Do you want to set them up? Because I'm sending them all of them. So they get the inner child,
Oh yeah.
future self, and future COVID self. Let
So, yeah.
everybody know what's coming, because those are
Yeah.
in your inbox at 7 p.m. Pacific.
Cool. Yeah. And so that's what I'm excited about, like doing these collaborations, and I wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. And so me and a friend, we said, hey, that was, what's the challenge that people are having? How can we use play as a way to help people explore that? And so fear was the thing. And so we put together, it was an hour-long workshop. And you know what, Cindy, I'm going to throw in another one. I'm going to get the link to the recording of that, and I'm going to send it to you so you can send it to everyone. And it was really cool. We did some really cool doodling and stuff like that of helping people play with fear. And the goal was not to get someone to like take some traumatic fear, but start with small fear and play with it, knowing that this framework can work with any fear. And as a way to help people, since we only had an hour, I created this guided meditation that helped people really step into the version of themselves, that they want to, like whatever goal or anything like that. Because Sydney talks about this all the time, is if you can visualize yourself doing it, you are more likely to do it. And so it was a guided meditation. I wrote the script and I recorded it, and a friend of mine mastered it and put some binaural beats and stuff behind it. And then I sent it to a few friends, and they said, this is dope. I really love it. Like, it was so powerful. Can you do something for COVID? And I was like, yeah, all right, cool. So I did a modified version that helps people visualize what is their post-COVID self going to be like. And then I sent it to a few people, and they said, yeah, and I'm realizing through this that I have some unresolved childhood stuff. Can you do something with that? I'm like, sure, why not? And so the other version is you look at a picture of yourself when you were a kid, and you think about some questions that you want to ask your younger self, or answer a conversation that you want to have with your younger self. And then you go into this guided meditation, and then you just have a conversation with the younger version of yourself. And Sydney, I'll let you talk about that, since you did that and you really got a blast from that. But those are what's coming to you in your inbox, that you need to use headphones just to get the best experience possible. You don't have to, but if you want to really get the most out of it, headphones will be great.
Yeah. So I did the meet your younger self. And the picture that I was looking at, I think I was in 4th or 5th grade, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm just like I'm just fed up with people whose brains don't work as fast as mine, with people who tell stupid stories and waste my time. I was like in 4th grade, I was like, I got things to do. Like, quit your yapping, grown-ups. Let's get it together. So I went and I had a chat with her, and this little me like ran up and tackle hugged me. She was like, hey, you're here. And I was like, hey girl, what's going on? And I was like, hey, it's fine. Nice to meet you. Also, how can I support you? Is there anything you need? And she was just like, for like an hour. And I was like, oh, okay. So then in my brain, I'm like, I know everything you need. I love you. I forgive myself. We've got this. We're not sick. We're not sad. We're not unhealthy. Like, we've got everything going on. And she was like, hey, yeah, thanks for that. And I was like, yeah, you just, you keep doing what you're doing, little one. Like, you got this. And it was like the most magical thing ever. But like, I'll never forget like the visualization of like little me running up to current me and just like hugging my legs. And I was like, oh, I love you, little me. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to leave you behind. I got you, girl. And I sobbed like this for a while. It was great. It was magic.
That's what it's all about. So that's
That's
my
what it's all
gift
about.
for all of you. And it's unfortunate that we had COVID. However, this wasn't on my agenda of something to do this year. And so I felt inspired to be creative and do that. So
I love it. Well, up next, we're going to talk with Miss Shanti and Miss Marionette about adventuring with children. If you'd like to stick around, you're more than welcome to. Okay, great.
I'll hang on for a bit until my
I
son
love
pulls me away and say, Dada, dinner time. So
yeah, perfect.
got
You
me.
have a 3-year-old, right?
Mm-hmm.
3-year-old?
So I'm excited about this. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So Shanti is the founder of Hike It Baby, which is an organization that gets families outside. And Marionette is a adventure leader with Girl Trek. So she goes, that's close enough. So Shanti, tell us a little bit about Hike It Baby and introduce yourself, and then Marionette do the same, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shanti Hodges. Hike It Baby is a nonprofit that I founded. I started the group in 2013. It's just a way to meet moms and dads to go out and hike with them, because I didn't want to hike alone with a newborn. I was 41 when I had my son, and I didn't really have any friends with kids. Everyone's kids were grown up and gone to college. Or they were choosing not to have kids. So I was really in that I'm choosing not to have kids camp. And then I had a kid. And so it was interesting. It was a very big shift. And I just started this group to find people to hike with. And I thought it was just going to be a little Portland thing. And when you start anything in Portland, Oregon, you have to be careful because everything there just grows like weeds. I think it's all the rain makes lots of things grow. And so it grew. And within 1 year, I had 50 different cities, people from 50 different cities that were hosting hikes. I had built a calendar and built a little website just in my spare time and didn't think about it all, like what it would become. And it really, really blew up. And it's been really an amazing experience. And I feel so lucky, and it's handed off now to a team. So I actually was the executive director for a little bit, but I didn't really mean to start a nonprofit, and that's a really intense role. I just wanted to go hiking with people, and really also wanted to create space where, people could find each other and hike together, because it felt weird to what do you do? Go on Meetup, go on Craigslist, hey, come hike with me and my baby on Craigslist. It didn't feel right. So it was just really a cool experience to watch it grow and to see where it's evolving into now. There's a staff and then there's a whole team, and now I live in rural Utah. Just kind of moved here because we came here hiking once, and I was like, it's so amazing here, and we were tired of living in a city and just felt sort of city burnt out. And we thought if we just did this for a few years, that'd be great, because our son's now 7. And it's been amazing, and it's been terrifying moving to rural America.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible experience. And I have lived my whole entire life in cities like Portland, Los Angeles, New York, Seattle. So moving here is a big eye opener for me. And it's teaching me a lot. And so, yeah, and I'm getting out and hiking a ton, but I'm also now partnering up. I'm now no longer just the executive director of Hike It Baby. I'm now just on the board, and I lead hiking women's retreats, and that's going really well. And I have a partner in that, and we have gotten all kinds of women here to Utah. And that's really cool to me, because I think there's a lot of women that are nervous about coming to Utah. It's a really remote place. If you're a person of color, it's not exactly friendly and inviting. So it's really been amazing to bring a lot of women here and share, incredible pictographs that are 1,000 years old, and to take people to waterfalls and slot canyons and help women get over fears of things. It's also, I also guide a lot of families here, and that's also incredible just to be able to. The other day I took two families deep into this place called Water Canyon, and they had little five-year-old girls. Their little 5-year-old girls had never hiked so far, and they just kicked ass. And it was so rad to see two little 5-year-old girls holding hands on trail on a challenging trail and doing the whole 5 miles. It was super cool. So
That's awesome.
I feel lucky that I've had this opportunity to help guide people into the outdoors. And that's, part of my calling for sure is, how can I get everybody in America on trail?
I love that. And Marionette, how about you?
Well, I'm Marionette, and I kind of, although I had, a bit of an adventure, like in your description, I remember playing in my backyard. I had a creek down at the bottom of the hill, and, chasing tadpoles, and, camping as a Girl Scout, and like I said, life happened, and I got away from all that. As we do as we get older, we kind of leave those childish things behind, or things that we think are childish. And and I had, an illness that kind of stymied my life. I had doctors telling me that by the time I was 25, I'd probably end up with cancer. And,
Dang.
yeah, I mean, and I took all that in, and I stymied my life.
Mhm.
I never allowed myself to dream or have goals because I always thought I was going to be dead. And so I said, okay, I really had no life plan, no life purpose. And to now, I have 4 kids. My last one at 40, crushing, thinking that, hey, I'm about to get my life back, and that's not what happened. And moving abroad, marrying someone who is not from this country, living in his country, and just, just being all over the place, and coming back here, and now suddenly at age mid-50s, finding that I do have a passion, and that nature is my passion. Adventuring is my passion to a certain extent. There's some things I have my limits. Zip lining is probably one of those. I did that last year. It was a little bit much, but being with kids and taking them out, and I stumbled onto that by way of Girl Trek. I joined Girl Trek, and it's basically showing trying to get African-American women off the couch, getting rid of some of these chronic diseases that we have because we're sedentary, or because of diet or lifestyle or whatever, excess weight. And Girl Trek says, hey, sis, you can do this. Just walk 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day. And because I had a lot of weight to lose, and I was at my, my highest weight, I was on 181, and I got down to, my mid 140s, and it started with Girl Trek, but then I needed something else. I needed a bigger challenge, and I fell into hiking. And, some of the other ladies were like, hiking, like Black people don't do that, And I'm like, okay, how am I going to reach these women? And last November, about, I think October, November, I was like, you know what? Well, anybody interested in taking their kids out? That's how I got some women out. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. I want to be with the kids, but I'm making the parents come along. And so that's how this whole thing with kids started. And, I'm still at the infancy stage of it, but I am really loving this new passion, this new journey that I'm on. And I want to take it as far as it can go. And that's kind of where I am. And I'm glad that even my kids are starting to say, okay, yeah, Mom, I want to go. And so, a couple of weeks ago, we all went out, and, and it was really great. So that's kind of where I am right now, just figuring out the back 9 of life, as I call it.
I
So
like that. That's great. So we had a chance to hike together in Atlanta when our tour came through, and we co-hosted a hike with Kenya and Michelle from Outdoor Journal Tour. And one of the things that I loved most about that hike was just the energy around it, and that when we got to the top of the mountain, Kenya, facilitated this meditation of sorts where we wrote down these notes and like what kind of healing we've had in nature, and we brought it to the land, because where we were hiking was Confederate battleground, and we were hiking in honor of Harriet Tubman. And I swear, like, I told my story to the trees, I was just like sobbing. I'd love to hear a little bit more about, have you had any experiences like that out in nature? Both of you. We'll start with Marionette, but what is your connection to nature as far as the healing aspect goes?
for me, the healing is more spiritual. When I see, and I'm a crier, so
That's fine. Me too. Let's do it. Let it fly.
because of what the doctor said to me, I felt like, what am I created for? And it's through nature, the experience with nature and the beauty that I see in nature. I'm like, I am more wonderful to God than the trees. But he allows me to experience that by seeing the beauty of the trees, the mountains, and all that surrounds me. And so I always see God in that, and I always want to run towards that. I feel a weightlessness, a euphoria whenever I see a mountain. If I'm driving towards a trail and I see the mountain in the distance, I'm like, God, I'm coming, and I don't want to leave. And God, and there's a passage in the Bible said, unless you are like these children, I have to be childlike again and trust and believe that the God who created all this created me and loves me. And that's the healing that I get in nature.
I love that. That's some powerful stuff. And I love that Girl Trek started just by saying walk 30 minutes a day.
That's
Because when I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, that's all I did. I did 30 minutes every morning, and the weight just melted off. Not just because I was walking, but that was my time to myself. That was my time to just like clear my head. I wasn't listening to music. I wasn't on the phone. I wasn't scrolling through social media. I was just like, it was just me and nature and walking around and fresh air. And as I addressed like the stuff that came up in my mind, like my mental health stuff, as I addressed those issues, my physical health was right behind it. Like it just followed right behind. And it was such a beautiful experience. So I love that that's where Girl Trek's starting with the 30 minutes a day. That's fantastic. Shanti, how about you and nature and feeling healing and all that stuff?
I think like for me, I mean, nature's always been important to me, but I got really caught up in cities and got really caught up in busy. I think we all get really caught in busy. And so like, that's the thing for me is I just feel like when I had my son, I started suddenly like carrying him and walking with him. And, I couldn't ride a bike or do a lot of things because I gained a lot of weight in my pregnancy, but I also, it was just, it's just scary to think of like, I barely knew how to carry him in the beginning. And so I just felt like when I would go out with him, we would just connect and bond so well. And, as I got more comfortable carrying him and being out there. And then I started seeing, I learned how to nurse on trail and hike while I was nursing. And then I started teaching other women around me that, and I just saw how it empowered so many women who maybe had experience with nature or had none ever before, but suddenly when they had a child, and when I felt this, when I had a child, even though I'd always been like an outdoorsy person, I had never connected with nature. I'd always had a thing. I had a surfboard or a snowboard or a mountain bike or a rock climbing thing. Like it was just like part of my scene that I was brought up with. And so suddenly I felt a very different experience when I had just Mason and I, and we were alone in the woods. And then with others in the woods, I felt all of our guards fell away. And we felt really connected to each other. You could be with someone that you didn't necessarily see eye to eye with, or that you wouldn't have necessarily been friends with, but it didn't matter because on trail and in nature, like it was all leveled. You were all, if it's gonna rain, you're all getting wet. There's no there's no two ways. Like here, it's raining, you know, just because you're rich and you're poor, you know, it was really interesting to be out there, and you all had to count on each other and help each other. Like I just remember this one experience of being out there and thinking no one's going to join me on trail today. And 15 women showed up with babies, and a huge hailstorm unleashed just as we're out there, just as we get there. And I think, oh, no one's going to want to hike. And everyone's like, let's go. And we went and hiked in a hailstorm in Tryon Creek in Portland. And it was so cool. And of course, at the end of our hike, the skies opened and it was like, oh, you know, and the sunbeams were coming through the trees and everything's dripping, and that feeling. And I just remember in that moment, that was the very beginning of Hike It Baby, the first few months. And I just remember feeling like I have to do this. It is my responsibility to make sure that no family is left behind from this experience with their child. Because it's so important that we get children out in nature. Like I'm really a big fan of starting everything with children, because I feel like so often we try and convince older people and all these people who have all these things going on in their life, or so much bias, or so much like all this garbage around them. And then with children, they're so fresh. And if you start with a child and you say, let's go and just, you don't have to learn anything in nature. You just have to go out and be. We're always trying to teach everyone so much, like let people just be in nature. And that's always what I push, is just like go out, because those early experiences I had with Mason and with those other men and women around me and our children, like we felt so connected to each other and our children by just being out there in the woods. So I think and then we then put that energy towards our children. And so I had conversations with people I never would have had. I learned so much on trail. I learned all kinds of things that I don't think I would have learned in my busy life, you know, in a mommy group or at a library story hour, or those, you just the experience on trail with people and children is just very different. I also noticed people took care of each other's children much better on trail. Like when you're in the library or the shopping mall, you know, like someone's kid goes and runs amok, you're not going to run after that kid. But on trail, everybody's like, okay, we're in this together. And, you know, you forgot your kid's hiking shoes because they threw them out of the car and you forgot. And then someone's like, I've got some shoes for you here. And like people are offering, like, you know, you realize you forgot your bag of snacks on the counter. And so nature just has a way of connecting us, I think, in allowing us a moment to have our guard come down. And that's what I've gained from nature. And I think it's because we slow down and we stop. And when you have a 2-year-old on trail, you're not going fast.
No.
Slow as molasses. So you're just hiking along, and all of a sudden you're like, you know, you see that tiny little red spider that, like, I just remember Mason pointing out this red spider. I'm like, what red spider? And I looked down, and I mean, it's like microscopic. Like my eyes could barely see this thing, but he saw it, like this little tiny spider. And because he's going so slow and looking at everything. And so suddenly also the nature experience becomes really different when you're with little children, like, you know, birth to 5. And so I just feel like we have to start teaching there, and nature is the best place to teach all the lessons that we're trying so hard to learn and relearn. And so I don't know, that's just my thoughts.
I dig it. So Marionette, if there's anybody out there that is listening or watching that wants to start thinking about bringing their kids out, what would you say? Like, what's a good way to get started? What's your advice to those folks?
My advice is, especially if you've never done it before, don't bite off more than you can chew. Start out somewhere close to home, especially if you're starting out with young kids, because you may not know how your kids, you know, it's like the dreaded tantrum that might happen in a store. You know, you don't know how your kids, are they going to be cranky? Are they going to be hungry? Be prepared. Have snacks, you know, I like to have an activity. Maybe they'll want to do it. I'm just a planner. I like to plan for every eventuality that might happen. So I want to, you know, have an activity in my mind if things slow down. It's something that we can do. But start close to home. Start on a nature trail. You know, don't try and, you know, go 10 miles or 5 miles. Just start walking somewhere close to home and just, you know, see what you can see. Enjoy just being outside together and kind of, you know, let the kid kind of dictate what they kind of, where they want to go, where they might want to wander. And, you know, with older kids, it's a little different. You have to think about, you know, what's a payoff? You know, is there a waterfall at the end? You know, that kind of, you know, I'm bored. You know, when we went hiking with my family, you know, a couple of weeks ago, my son he didn't have any idea where he was going, but he was, you know, way ahead with earphones on. And I'm thinking, is he mad at me? Because I was kind of like, you know, getting a little cranky because I wanted to take a, you know, picture, and he's, you know, so disinterested, but he came along. And so I needed to get out of, this is not a performance thing. This is let him connect, you know, and so he went ahead. And so you have to be prepared for, you know, how different people are going to react. You know, and just when you catch up, kind of include them in conversation or whatever, but start out slow, do your 30 minutes, take a walk, you know, and then try again. Just keep trying it until, you know, you get them used to going out with you. I mean, and I agree with Shanti, the younger, the better, because, you know, we have to, you know, this is a learning process, you know, for these kids, training them up in the way that they should go, you know, and how to interact. They're going to see all kinds of people on the trail, do all sorts of things, be exposed to all sorts of situations, a hailstorm, you know, mud, knee-deep mud, you know, and I think that's just a metaphor for being able to deal with what life might throw your way. So get out often. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Have snacks, have a payoff if your kids are older. That's what I would say.
Sounds pretty solid. How about you, Shanti?
My advice, the first thing is pack the night before. Pack your car the night before, because inevitably you'll wake up the next day and that smoothie that you made for you and it will spill. Your kid will come up and tip it over all over your stuff. So pack the night before, because then you won't sabotage yourself. It's really easy to sabotage with kids and to just be overwhelmed by getting them out. Definitely close to home. Start with a stroller. If you're really not experienced carrying, it's okay. Look for groups like Hike It Baby. There's a bunch of really cool groups popping up, Adventure Mamas, Girl Trek. I mean, so many neat groups that you can join to help you, guide you on that trail and with that first experience. And, you know, I think a lot of people get scared of the word hike. So we say in Hike It Baby, like for us, hike is a walk around your neighborhood. Like nature is all around you. It's not necessarily climbing that mountain. It's so, you know, literally taking your stroller and walking. And what I used to do in Portland is I would do this really fun hike, and it was about 8 blocks from my house. And we would stroller or walk with kids or carry kids and walk to a community garden that was literally just an alleyway that they had turned into a community garden, a really small little garden. And then the kids would play in there, but it was all overgrown and really cool. And it was, I mean, it was literally an alleyway in a neighborhood. And that was our hike. And so I think redefining what hike means is really, really critical, because, you know, for me, stereotypically, hike has meant like family hiking is a long-haired white woman and man who looks like a rock climber with a big frame pack on his back, and she's carrying the littler baby with a light soft carrier. I can't tell you how many times I've called companies out for that photo in their advertising. It drives me crazy because it's so important that the image we share of hiking, especially with children, is more urban and more close to home, because you're not taking your kid way deep out into the Oregon Gorge when they're a baby. You know, like if you're not experienced with hiking, that's too much. Like the more we share that simple experience on trail, the more people you're going to get out. So yeah, keep it simple, and then look for a friend to go with. Make someone commit that they're going to go with you and you're both going to go that day. And so it really helps the first few times you get going, just to have someone, and especially if you're two people that don't know how to do it, it's great to start with someone, because then you can both not feel like, you both feel inexperienced, and that's okay. Yeah, I mean, I want to get more people on trail. Like my goal was always like, get 1 million people on trail by 2020. And I think we did it in a lot of ways, if you count all the babies and all the people and stuff. But now I'm just trying to figure out, how is it that we spread it even further and make it so people are comfortable going out with little experience, because that's one of the biggest barriers. You walk into REI, and I can't tell you how many women have told me they walked into REI and felt so shamed or like embarrassed by, like, you know, I had a woman with 5 kids tell me she went into REI, and the guy there, or man or woman, I don't know, who was sort of with her, like trying to help her, like, oh, your kids are wearing those on trail, and they were tennis shoes. Well, she's a single mom with 5 kids. She can wear tennis shoes on trail. Her kids can wear tennis shoes.
It's going to be fine. Yeah.
They'll do great.
Yeah.
5 boys, no, 4 boys and a girl. They'll be fine. So I think that it's really important to stop feeding into this gear thing, especially with little kids. Like, I think gear is important. I think quality gear is important, but start with what you have and get out there.
Yeah, and don't let that be the barrier to entry, because like for the most part, this recreation is free. We don't need to go spend $300 per child to get them all geared up with, they'll grow out of it in 2 days, right? Like, so
hit up your friends. Your friends will have
yeah. And then am I thinking of you or someone else, but did you through hike with your kid?
Me?
Yeah.
No, one of our ambassadors, Becca Quirin did. She did the Appalachian Trail, and we supported her, the organization. So we got out and helped her, and, you know, helped them find sponsors and stuff like that. But I did a 6-week driving trip with my son, hiking all around the country alone, solo.
That's
when he was
cool.
3 years old,
Wow.
3.5. And it was really interesting. And it's really, I filmed a lot of it, and looking back on some of the videos, just like wild, because I can't believe, like, I took him for 6 weeks on my own, cruising and hiking and meeting Hike It Baby families. But I couldn't have done it without Hike It Baby, because I had people and community to find in each place I stopped. Yeah, and on top of it, I didn't know then what I know now, which is he's been diagnosed with autism. So that's been a whole really interesting thing. High functioning, but it's been really like, I'm like, oh, that's why when I was trying to shove him into that frame carrier in where was it, Arches, and he wouldn't go in, and I spent a half an hour trying to get him in there. Oh, now I understand. But it's really, I mean, yeah, it's it's been an interesting path.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So Shanti, where can people find you online, and what are you really excited about that you're working on right now?
Hikingmyway.com, or at Hiking My Way, Instagram and Facebook, Shanti Hodges. But Hiking My Way is the Instagram. I do that. I'm really active on that. I'm less and less and less active every day on Facebook, because it bugs me.
Yeah, it's
like most
terrible.
people.
Yeah.
And I do retreats a couple times a year for women, and I'm really hoping to do a mom and child retreat, boy and, you know, male and female. I find a lot of them are mommy daughter, and I have a son, so I get left out of a lot of those. So I'd love to do one here in Utah and get more, because I think a lot of women can't go do adventures, or they think they can't go do adventures because it's really overwhelming to go alone. But I also think they can't leave their kids home. Like, they're usually the primary caretaker, even if they're not a single parent.
Right.
So they can't just leave their kids at home. So I'm hoping to do more of that. So that's what I'm really excited about. And I'm just excited to get more people to Utah, because I really think that, especially Southern Utah, because it's a space that has not traditionally been welcoming to, you know, women or, you know, a lot of people. And so that's really shifting fast here. And so I'm excited to get more people here. And it's also, you can have really big adventures here, but they're really safe in terms of, like, the trails are really wide, and there's lots of really incredible views and incredible trails that aren't advanced. They're very easy, beginner, intermediate trails. So I'd love to figure out more ways to get people here. And it's only
So
6 hours
cool.
from LA and close to Salt Lake. I mean, it's so close to urban, and people don't realize it's like only 6 hours from most of Southern California.
That's incredible. And Marionette, how about you? Where can people find you online? How can they join your hikes? Are you hosting hikes for other people, or like how can they come hike with you?
Well, okay, so me personally, I share my personal adventures on at Mocha Mama Treks on Instagram, not on Facebook. I do Girl Trek stuff. I have a group on, that's predominantly for Girl Trek members. That's Mocha's in Motion on Facebook. And then I just started COVID really messed me up. Let's just say that, because I had planned the whole, starting up on the new year, planning, family hikes with kids, that were preschoolers, elementary, and then, getting into the older grades, and COVID just shut all that down. And now camps, kind of up in the air, what are parents going to do? And parents are, understandably like, no, I don't want my kid around, where somebody's, exposing them to COVID, So I just have like, a couple of little families that are, I'm kind of dealing with their kids, and, going over their house and digging in dirt, going for a walk in the park nearby their house. And their moms and we went hiking this past weekend. And so we've already made plans to do like the three families, their two families and me getting together and doing a family hike, and I'll have an activity. So when COVID gets more out of it, and people are more trusting, then I'll start doing things, and I'll post things on Instagram. And so right now I'm just not really, I'm just doing with people.
Waiting. Yeah. Playing that game.
Yeah, Hike It Baby has 1,400 hikes a month, and we're shut down right now.
See? Yeah.
So, but when we get going, you're always welcome to put your hikes in Hike It Baby calendar, and people can join.
Awesome. That would be
That's
awesome.
like anyone can put their hikes in that are for birth to 5-year-old kids. And then people will show up, from different communities. We're involved with Adventure Mamas. We're involved with lots of different groups. And depending on a city, there'll be hike groups that are really localized and really popular locally, and then they'll put their stuff in the Hike Baby calendar. So if someone's driving through the area, they go on the calendar and it's national.
Yeah, there's actually, I know that another hiking group that I'm involved in, a lot of the women, and it's an all girls group. And I'm not going to name the name because they're no longer, a group anymore. But we still, get together here in Georgia, and a lot of the women in there, want to bring their kids, and people recommend, okay, there's Hike It Baby.
Yeah.
So to be able to collab in that would be great, and add some diversity.
I mean, that's
not many of us out there doing the Hike It Baby thing, and that's part of what I want to do, is get more people of color out on the trail, because there are, there's an access problem. There are cultural issues, social issues, there, like you said, the picture of the, the long hair, and, well, where's the Afro puff?
I can't tell you how many brands I've had to call out on that. And I mean, I'm sure, they love me. I'm like, and they'll be like, well, it's just for our sales meeting. I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Right.
Because
and that's the thing. Can we talk about that for a second? Like, do these people not like money? Why do you leave people out of stuff? Like, there is money to be made. If we're going to speak their language, aside from the fact that it's the right thing to do, and everybody should feel welcome outside, that is the baseline. Do they not like money? Because when you start showing different kinds of people, then those people start buying your products. Like, this isn't rocket science. I don't understand why this is such an issue. Like, I do understand, because it's terrible, and white supremacy is just like the shit. in the worst way, but like, why are we not like, do you not speak this language that is dollars and like cha-ching sounds? Like, it just drives me
Yeah,
crazy.
well,
They just have in their minds what their stereotypical customer is, and it's not a black person, it's not a black child, you know. And there's a whole history behind why we're not in the, you know, in the outdoors. There's a terrifying history. You know, they shot us dead in the woods. You weren't caught dead in the woods. And then there, you know, we had to have in Georgia, even near me in Georgia, half an hour, not even half an hour, was the segregated beach that they gave the black people, you know. So we're on a trail. And then you're gonna talk about hike up a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
When I say camping to some women, some black women like, nah, not glamping, but camping on a pad with snakes,
like on the ground.
No, that's not happening, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's my thing. I want to get people out and let them experience, because once they understand it, then they will go and spend the money, but they've got to be exposed. But that doesn't mean that you don't reel them in some kind of way. You know, like I got this t-shirt. Well, you know, I like the t-shirt, but I was going through the t-shirt rack, and this was at a trailhead, on an AT trailhead, and every person that was on a t-shirt was black. I mean, was a white, you know, with the little tendrils, you know, and I'm just thinking, oh, I'd love to get that shirt, but what do I look like wearing that? You know? And so they, you know, if they just kind of cater, and then if they had groups, and black people like to fish, they like to, you know, go and do all kinds of stuff. It's just not hiking, but it's all kinds of things outdoors that, you know.
Yeah.
This whole Floyd thing has been an eye-opener in terms of the responses of people, the outdoor community, to in response to what the brand statements. I mean, you know, oh great, you know, don't bring that shit into the hiking community, is what was said in one post. And I was just like, oh, I mean, it was eye-opening to me. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a conversation we've had since day one, because for me, I really wanted to see how I could I'm a connector and a community builder, and I wanted to see how I could bring community together, especially those really experienced outdoorsy people like myself. Like, how could we open space for bringing beginners in? And beginners means all beginners, you know? And so that was really a big part of Hike It Baby. So if, for example, if someone's baby has a blowout, everyone needs to stop, and we all stop, and we all wait, and we play on the trail, and we hang out, and we change a diaper. If, you know, and so that was our really early day one, was leave no mama behind, leave no one behind.
Right.
And that has always, since the beginning, been the most important thing to me about Hike It Baby, is how to leave no one behind. And from the beginning, I kept saying, like, one way to do that is to change what the hiker looks like in our imagery, whether we have a lot of African American or Asian American or Native American women hiking with us or not. We have to show it when we have it immediately. And like, and I don't want to say showcase, because I'm not, you know, not tokenism type of show, but show it so that people can identify and say, oh, I want to go on a hike with that group, because I can see myself in that group. And, you know, like, I mean, my one friend, Deb Gibbs, I mean, she was someone I'd be like, oh, we're doing a photo shoot. Deb, you got to come out. From like the very first photo shoot we did, she was my friend. She loved hiking, and she was African-American, and her, you know, her two kids were, and she was like, totally uncommon, because she also really felt strongly she wanted to get more African-American women healthy. I mean, she was super fit. We met in stroller strides, you know, we would do stroller strides together. We did Hike It Baby together, you know, we hung out. And it was really important to me that, like, I wasn't the face of Hike It Baby, because I'm just the typical face of every outdoor brand. It's boring, it's old, it's done.
I love the potential for collaboration between the two of you with Girl Trek and with Hike It Baby. And if nothing else, then the calendar stuff, like making all of these things more aware and more accessible, because you've got such a great platform. I love that you've opened that up.
No, it's
So
totally open.
the next segment of and our closing for our campfires each night is our group gratitude circle. So if everybody in the Zoom chat wants to participate, pop on your camera, and then I'll start calling on folks. But Marionette, what are you thankful for tonight?
I'm thankful for this opportunity. I mean, when you literally reached out, I was like, what? Yeah, scared, but yeah, you know, I'm thankful for this opportunity because, you know, this is the dreams, the goals that I didn't get as a, you know, teenager are now coming true. And there are people that are supporting me. And there are people who are liking what's happening. And I'm getting so much fulfillment in serving other people, you know, and doing for other people and connecting other people with something that I really enjoy. And if your heart's not in it, why bother? And my heart is in it. So I'm just grateful, you know, for this opportunity. I'm grateful for breath. I'm grateful for, you know, the mountains, the trees, the, you know, everything that allows me to connect with nature and other people.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here. And don't go away because we're not done. We Brady Bunch this gratitude circle. Shanti, what are you thankful for?
Oh, wow. So many things. You know, I'm thankful that we live in a country that has so much nature around us and so much access to nature, because I've traveled all over the world and the access is not everywhere. There's many countries, like I was in Costa Rica last year, you can't just go hike on a trail. You have to pay.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
15, 20, 40, $80, $100 to go hike on a trail.
Wow.
And so I really experienced this last year. I was in Alaska last summer, Oregon, and then Costa Rica. And it was an eye opener to see that the whole world, I mean, you know, I mean, let's think about it. If you were in the Middle East, like we have so much open land, so much space. And I'm so grateful that we have that space. Well, we need to rewrite the rules in those space right now very heavily. It's there. And at the moment, and we really have to protect it. And we really have to fight for it, because it's important that that space doesn't go away, because we are so lucky to have an $80 pass, which is still a lot and not accessible for all. But we do have an $80 pass that can take a carload of people into beautiful to 2,000 parks around the country.
Wow.
Through just your national park pass. So like, let's always remember that when you're out recreating in nature, that space is it can be taken away real fast.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for open space.
Yeah, I love that. Mary, what are you thankful for?
So today was the last day of school for San Diego Unified School District. And my husband is a middle school special ed teacher, and I have 2 second graders and a 3rd grader, and we did it. We survived this crazy school year, and I'm incredibly grateful that it is officially summer. So
Congratulations.
We did it.
Vicky, how about you?
Oh gosh, you know, this is a repeat, but with Gary on my screen, I got to be thankful for the famous Dan Shaw again, because he brought me Gary and he brought me you and he brought me pretty much everything that's good in my life right now. So yeah. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Gary, what are you thankful for?
I am thankful for community. You know, the fact that we are able to like hop on these magic boxes right here and look at each other, even though we're like miles and miles apart. Like, isn't that like freaking amazing? If this was like 20 years ago, like 10 years ago, like this wouldn't even be like a thing. Like, I'm super grateful for that. I'm also grateful for my wife, because I can hear my son downstairs. Like, I think something's going down. and the fact that I know she got that, and we got each other's back. So I'm very grateful for that.
I love that. Thank you. Jess, what are you thankful for?
So I am thankful for the dreamers. Sometimes I go on and on for this gratitude, but I want to use my on and on time to just read a couple lyrics from a song regarding this. It's called The Rainbow Connection, because I'm grateful for the dreamers. So it's, who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that and someone believed it, and look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? What do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, that rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Wow.
First heard that with Kermit the Frog.
Mhm. I totally was hearing Kermit singing that.
And I heard it again on Kenny Loggins's album, Return to Pooh Corner. And so that song holds a lot of meaning for me. And I'm a dreamer, and I want to just take this moment on, on YouTube and everywhere to just say, hey, dreamers, keep dreaming, keep doing, keep manifesting. Because if you're not dreaming, you're not living. You can't have a goal until you set it. You can't have a dream actualized until you dream it, and I'm not living with a dream deferred anymore. And there's a lot of people in this country that are not living with a dream deferred anymore. And it's time to live our dreams, whatever it means. Shoot for utopia, shoot for the goal, the stars, shoot for love and peace and brotherhood and sisterhood across the world. Shoot for it, aim for it, take steps to make that change, be a dreamer. And so I'm thankful for the dreamers.
Dude, every night Jess just like takes us to church for her gratitude circle. Like it's getting real good up in here, and I'm just so thankful. Laura, what are you thankful for?
I'm thankful that we had rain in Denver today so that I did not have to water my lawn tonight. And I am thankful to have my neighbors not partying until 1 o'clock in the morning again so that I can get some sleep. So sleep is a good thing.
I dig it. Yes, it is. Rest is important. Mr. Jason, what are you thankful for? And I want to hear something that you're thankful for about in your life right now, other than how much you love being here and listening to us talk.
Okay, well, sorry if it's so quiet. I'm thankful that my aquarium's no longer leaking right now. This is actually why I haven't been participating. I've been on my little plumbing project to add a little aquarium.
Dang.
Yeah, because it got really hot, and if my aquarium gets too hot, I kill everything that's inside of it. So I'm thankful that these
We
connections,
don't want that.
like right here, that they're not leaking anymore. So I was actually setting it up this whole time. So that's one thing I'm thankful for. And there was something, I think it was Marionette was talking. I haven't been looking at my screen at all. The one thing I took away from this chat today was where she talked about, I think she kind of touched a little bit on like spirituality, I believe it was. In my personal journey with all my traumas, I guess you can sort of say I kind of lost touch with my religious side. I guess over the years, I've kind of come to realize that religion, specifically religion, whether it's, Catholicism, Christianism, Buddhism, they always have these very, very certain set kind of ways that you're supposed to be. I was raised in a Catholic family, so everyone knows. So I mean, over the course of time, like even through my traumas, people are like, you really need to get to God, you need to talk to Jesus, and while the intention behind that is all good. I had no problem with that. It was almost kind of like, here's another prescription for you. I mean, I know that a lot of us are all about, kind of have, our you know, personal resentment towards like when we're sick or when we have trauma, that people are prescribing us stuff, and that could even be so much as something as such as God or religion or you know, 12-step programs and things of that nature. But I think, again, touching back on what Marionette said, it was just, I think I found a greater sense of spirituality and connection to this unanswered question of what is God, while I'm out in nature. Versus all these times my family has tried to take me to church during, you know, my times of sadness or any of that. And everybody's like, you need to read the Bible. Or it's like it's kind of like this kind of blanket statement, like to kind of help you. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think sometimes people throw it at you because that's what they found, or that's what you know, the best way that they think, you know, will get you through your times. You just need to, you know, you just need to go to church. You just need to go to this. But I mean, obviously a lot of us have our own way of connecting. And I think the fact that doing these solo hikes and being out in nature by myself, it just kind of all reverts back to listening to myself. So that's one of the biggest little things, even though you barely said it in passing. That was the number one thing that struck me about today. I was listening again. It's interesting what happens, and I'm grateful that I was able to get my aquarium to stop leaking, and that's my takeaway. That's what I kind of started to really think about, you know, in this whole thing. And I wish I could have participated in Gary's in his improvs. Those sounded fun, but I was like, oh my God, I got salt water leaking all over my floor right now. So yeah, thankful for the fact that I know how to use a wrench. And yeah.
Well, I'm glad we were
and
able to
thankful for nature because it connects me.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to be the soundtrack for your maintenance project tonight. Thanks for being here,
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah, great. You know what?
Awesome.
It's better listened to than anything else, I suppose.
So for everybody on YouTube, we will see you tomorrow. Guys, this is the one that I've been looking forward to. I'm not going to say the most, but that I'm the most excited about, in that this lineup is so impactful and really represents what we're trying to build here at Hiking My Feelings. In that Sue, who owns the Reggae Ranch, is our first guest. She is one of the most incredible women I've ever met in my entire life. Like, I actually don't have words to describe the friendship and relationship and partnership that we've been able to build here. But I'm really excited to have a chat with her. Natalie Rise is our musical guest tomorrow. And if you aren't familiar with Natalie Rise, she is part of a band. It's her band, and the mix of people in the band are from Australia and Jamaica. And her most recent song that she released is called One Love Is Action. And it's part of a series of music that came out of COVID and this Cali Roots festival that happens every year in May. They got a track and gave it to a bunch of different artists, and then they wrote their own lyrics to it, sang their own song to it, but the beats and everything, the music part of it is the same. And Natalie Rise's version of that track is called One Love Is Action. And given everything that's going on in the world right now, and as a reggae artist, I know that that's something that she very much lives, breathes, and personifies. So I'm just really excited for her energy tomorrow, because where I found the chapter I'm reading tomorrow is called Embracing Your Stink. And it's about how I just shed all the things about my body, my appearance, my personality, all the things that people had told me I need to change or fix to fit into this like very narrow box. I let go of all of that. And at the top of this mountain on the Trans-Catalina Trail on Catalina Island, I felt like I was Superwoman, and I felt so empowered and so embodied and just absolutely incredible. And the next time that I felt that was when I saw Natalie Rise perform for the first time. So she came out and she just sucks the entire energy of the room directly into like where she is. Like, her whole body, she is a beacon of hope and inspiration and justice and love. And I'm given everything that's going on right now, like I couldn't think of a better time to have her join us. And I couldn't think of a stronger message that represents what we believe here through the power of her music. So she's our performer, and we'll be doing an interview tomorrow. And then lastly, and certainly not least, Serena Rana Default, who is the founder of Trails Inspire. We met last year in person in Tucson at one of the talks I did at Summit Hut. And this woman, she's hiked the Arizona Trail, which spans the entire state. She literally wrote the book on the day hikes that you can do on that trail. She's a Grand Canyon river guide. She does trail work. Like, she just got a grant to extend some of the trails in her area. Like, this woman, when I think of trails and community and building, like literally building communities of people and building trails, like Serena is one of the most inspiring women I've ever met. Like, and to like put this into perspective, when we went and we sat with her at her house, like she's one of those people where she sits down and she's just like, like she's anchored, she's rooted, like she is the epitome of grounding. And me just spending time around her, I'm like, her energy in that way is contagious. So like the lineup tomorrow from top to bottom is everything that I want to see more of in the world. It's a diverse group. It's a group that's been through some shit and isn't afraid to talk about it. And I'm just really excited for what we've got going on tomorrow. So definitely come join us tomorrow. If you're on YouTube, we're going to peace out. If you're in the Zoom, stick around because we always like to chat for a little bit after we end these things. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here, and have a great rest of your evening. Wave bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.